Okay, I've just installed Zoom on my new laptop, and maybe you have just signed up for Zoom, or maybe you have signed up with a different email address. And so you probably want to set some of the basics. So first of all, we need to sign in to Zoom. Or actually, before we do that, I just want to make sure that you've got the latest version of Zoom. Check for updates. And if you don't have that, so you can just check for updates, it's very fast, and if you're on the latest version, that's great. Your version may be later than mine, depends on when you are watching this video. But if not, if you're not on the latest version, then it's just a very quick process, maybe about 1 minute to click on update Zoom. And then it's time to log in. If you have forgotten your username or password, just click on forgot there, and then it will ask you for your email address, and you can get an email to reset your password. I'm signing in with my username and password with my email address. You may be using one of the other options. So I'm going into zoom.us and then preferences, and so here are some of the preferences. We'll just race through a few of them. Dual monitors if you've got an extra one. Enter full screen. If you don't do that, of course, you can always have your full screen once you actually log into Zoom. When you start a meeting, that's just to copy the invite link to your clipboard, or else you can do that manually. When you leave a meeting, if you're leaving a meeting by mistake, then you can sort of get a confirmation. Yeah, you're sure you meant to leave the meeting. Show meeting duration is probably not something you're going to use. Alright, so once again, zoom.us preferences. So add Zoom to the Mac OS menu bar. I like to keep that up there. It's just very easy for me to start and stop Zoom. When my screensaver begins, then stop my video and audio. I just leave that blank. So here's a little reminder thing that's helpful. So I'm really going with the defaults for mostly, and then this one here, which means that keep my Zoom desktop client up to date. Zoom tends to keep releasing new updates and corrections and features and changing the menus and so on. And so slow just means it's a safer way to do it. What it means is that you don't update every single brand new feature, but it does the major ones, whether you want to go dark, light, and so on, or your skin tone settings. Now this one is something that you're going to miss, that it's very easy to miss, is view more settings. Now there's actually what I think is a bug in Zoom. When you click on that, you've then got to close this so that you can click on see all of those settings. So let's have a look at some of those ones. These ones are going to be pretty interesting. So this security guideline is basically, we're keeping we're keeping that turned on. You may not even have control over that. The waiting room. When participants join a meeting, place them in a waiting room. So this is really going to have a couple of advantages. If you've got back-to-back meetings, let's say that you're having a meeting with one person. If someone turns up early for your second meeting, or your first meeting is running over time, you don't want that first person, you don't want the new person in the second meeting to turn up in your current meeting. Okay, it's a bit embarrassing for everybody. It could be. So keep the waiting room on. People stay in the waiting room for not for long. It's usually 30 seconds or so. You do want to have a meeting passcode in place. And then when you send the invitation, it will show that meeting passcode. It will include that in the link, so people don't have to type it in. Have your personal meeting ID. I would keep this on, so that means that pretty much, well, especially if you're having regular meetings with the same people, then I would keep that PMI on. You can have a passcode for people joining by phone. Once again, I'm going with the defaults here. This is around webinars. I'm going to skip all of that. Blocking users from specific domains. If you know that there's a particular kind of company that people are joining from, or a website they're joining from, then you can block them if you want. But and same thing with blocking specific countries. Once again, leave this all with the defaults here. Now this one is interesting. Start meetings with the host video on. If you're a person who doesn't want to be on video, I would turn that off. Okay? And then when your video is turned off in Zoom, then your photo, your profile picture, if you've got one, should turn up, and if you don't have one, it will be your initials. Same thing with participants. You may set it for them to say, when participants join, I want their video to be off, and then they specifically, when they're ready, have to turn on their video. Okay? Up to you. I'm happy to have both my video on and participants' video on. And then, are they allowed to join before you? Once again, I'm just leaving that. Yes, they are allowed to join, or they're going to be in the waiting room. I'm not sure if that's actually the same as the waiting room. Okay, Zoom rooms we're skipping. Personal meeting ID, we've already seen that. We're going to have that PMI, the personal meeting ID. Okay, and you can also mute in case people join a meeting from a noisy setting. You can mute them by default, and they can unmute themselves. Okay, these options, once again, I'm allowing people to chat, and they can even save the chat. And if two participants are having a chat with each other, then you can't read the chat, okay, as the host. So we were just protecting their privacy there. So you allow private chat between participants. Once again, I'm going with the defaults here. I like to get a sound notification when someone joins the meeting. I want to turn off the feedback to Zoom. I don't want to be sending off a message to everybody, to myself or to everyone, to say, how was your Zoom meeting? I'm not going to do that. Do you want to show the meeting control bar when you're in a meeting? I'm going to leave that as yes, because it can be a bit hard to find. Okay? And then screen sharing, you can say it's just it really comes down to who you're talking to. If you're having a big meeting with lots of strangers, and some of them maybe they mess around a little bit, then you might just say, well, if you want to share your screen, you're going to have to ask me as the host. Okay, I'm going to skip the annotation, the remote control, non-verbal feedback I like to have on. That just allows people to put in, to communicate by clicking on icons, and same thing with the emojis thing. I like to allow all the emojis. Are we going to show who's in the meeting? Yep. Who's been invited? Yep. Now this one, you can hide profile. Once again, if you've got people who are messing around, sometimes kids like to put up some photo, school students like to put up pictures that they shouldn't be putting up. You can block that. You can say, all right, I'm just going to have your name there, and you're not going to allowed to be put up participant profile pictures. Okay, you can report inappropriate behavior. Okay, I'm going to leave the rest of this. Allow use of videos as virtual backgrounds, once again, if you trust people. And I'm going to scan past the rest of this. So let me jump across to a couple of other settings. One is your profile itself. You are going to want to put in your profile picture here. And if you want to change your profile picture, this is where you do it. You hit delete button. Okay? To change the picture is very easy. You need to have a good picture, and it's got to be less than 2 megabytes. Okay, ideally just your face. That means 2 megabytes. Okay, and I'm just going to hit cancel there. I'm going to keep that picture in place. You can set your time zones as well in your date format if you like. Now, upcoming meetings are just set here. Webinars I don't use. Personal contacts I'm going to skip. Recordings is interesting. You've got, depending on your account, you may have local recordings which you can store just on your local laptop, or you may have cloud recordings. Okay, and so when you've got two people both recording the same meeting, that's going to have to be a cloud recording. Okay, I'm going to skip the rest at this point, but you can jump through other things, device management, account management, and so on. They're more advanced options, but basically that's where we are at the moment. And then to start a meeting, you can start it with your video on or with your video off, or simply just share your screen. You can still turn on video afterwards, but you want to start just by sharing your screen. Now, if you found this helpful, you might like to check out some of my other videos on my channel, and they will help you. They're much shorter videos, and if you want to subscribe to my channel, then that will get you access to other videos about Zoom that I release from time to time.